Thank you so much. I made a special request for today. As being the speaker for today, the Spark, I'm talking about following the heart, which is the message that comes from the children's book that I wrote. And so I'll be reading today's seed from the good book, The Good Pirate. So, and I really appreciate this is a little longer than usual. It takes about 5 minutes to get through the whole book, but I wanted to just read the whole story for you because this story was really a channeled message, and it has such a strong, beautiful message, and you really have to hear the whole story. So here it goes. The Good Pirate. There once was a little pirate who was always left behind. I hope you don't mind. I need you to stay, his father, the captain, would say. Do what you're told, and you'll be a good pirate someday. The little pirate cried out to the crew and to his father, Captain Tattoo, please don't leave me behind. I want to go with you this time. I want to be a good pirate, just like all of you, and do all the great things that good pirates do. His father nodded. Hear that, me crew? Me boy wants to be like me and you. Let's teach him what all pirates do. Aye, aye, sang the crew. Wear what we wear, say what we say, and do what we do, and you'll be a good pirate too. That's easy to do, replied the little pirate. I'm going to be a good pirate, just like all of you. Okay, me lad, then let's show you what pirates do, hollered his father, Captain Tattoo. That night their ship sailed into Nicetown. It was late, and not a single person could be found. Captain Tattoo stood on the bow and yelled aloud, first we'll sink their ships, fire the cannons and blow them to bits. Fire the cannons and blow them to bits, repeated the crew, always doing what they're told to do. The little pirate couldn't believe it was true. He cried out, oh, what a terrible thing to do. But that's what pirates do, replied the crew. Say what we say and do what we do, and you'll be a good pirate too. They sunk all the ships, setting them ablaze, and snuck ashore in the smoky haze. Now let's show me, lad, what pirates do, shouted Captain Tattoo to his loyal crew. Breaking down the doors of all the stores, and take all the gold that ye can hold. Take all the gold that we can hold, repeated the crew, always doing what they were told to do. The little pirate couldn't believe it was true and cried out, oh, what a terrible thing to do. But that's what pirates do, replied the crew. Say what we say and do what we do, and you'll be a good pirate too. The townsfolk awoke from all the noise. They were sad and mad to see Nicetown destroyed. As the people approached, beginning to cry and shout, the captain stopped them and drew his sword out. Oh no, why have you done this to our beautiful town? We are the nicest people to be found all around. Because that's what pirates do, roared Captain Tattoo. He turned to the crew and tightened his grip. Now back to the ship, we've had our fun. If they follow us, fire ye gun. As Nicetown burned down, the ship sailed away, and all the pirates cheered and shouted, hooray! All except the little pirate, who was horrified by it all. He sat quietly in the corner atop some cannonballs. Sitting alone and feeling sad, he no longer wished to be like his dad. He thought to himself, how can they laugh, dance, and sing after doing such a terrible thing? I don't want to steal, and I'm not very tall. Maybe I'm not a good pirate after all. He couldn't believe this was what pirates do. In his heart, he knew it wasn't true. He climbed onto a barrel and yelled out to the crew, if this is what pirates do, I don't want to be like any of you. All the pirates stopped their dancing and cheered. They looked at the little pirate, who now had their ear. How would you feel if someone stole your gold and burned down your town? They scratched their heads for a moment or two. We'd be mad and we'd be sad, answered the crew. Then why do you do the terrible things you do if you don't want someone to do them to you? They looked at each other, surprised and confused. Then came an answer from Captain Tattoo, because that's what pirates do. Dad, said his lad, just because it's something other pirates do doesn't mean you have to do it too. But pirating was all the captain knew how to do, and he thought it was all his crew knew too. Me crew, isn't pirating all you want to do? The crew was too embarrassed to say. They had always lived the pirate's way. So the little pirate piped in. I've seen how much you all love to do. You have so many talents, each and every one of you. Pierre loves to paint and Bobby loves to bake. I hear Sasha singing all day, for goodness sake. I know there's something each of you would rather do. Pirating isn't the only thing that pirates can do. The crew turned to the captain and said, it's true. Captain Tattoo knew what he had to do. You're right, me lad, and you make me glad. Being a pirate shouldn't be a chore. You've shown me that pirates can be so much more. I knew you'd be a good pirate someday. I'm glad you've shown us all a new way. Captain Tattoo turned to his crew. I've got new orders for all of you. From now on, I want you to do all the things you love to do. Let's all be good pirates. What do you say? All together, the crew shouted, hooray. Then let's head back to Nicetown and set things right. And they sailed back to town, this time in daylight. The pirates gave back all of the gold they had stolen and rebuilt all the ships they had blown to bits. They fixed up all the stores and even added a few more. All the pirates admitted they made a mistake. They said they were sorry, and Bobby baked them a cake. The people of Nicetown were so grateful that day, they forgave the pirates and asked them to stay. The pirates looked at each other and they all agreed this was the place they'd rather be. Pirates gave up the old pirate way and opened a store right on the bay. So many people loved the tale of Pirates Bay, the crew turned their story into a play. Pierre painted sets, Sasha sang songs, and Bobby baked baguettes. And in that store by the shore where they stayed in the bay, people came from far away to hear of the pirates who had changed their ways. All because one little boy changed their minds and taught all the pirates how to be kind. And the moral of the good pirate's tale, don't do something because others do. Follow your heart and do what makes you happy too. That's exciting to be here. It's exciting to share that with you. As I mentioned, for me, that book was really a channeled message. You know, I sat down one day and I was about to start work and it just started flowing through and I just started typing away and I knew it was something that needed to be shared. And as you heard, and as I titled the talk, it's about following our hearts and being true to who we are. And I know that follow your heart is a message that is very kind of obvious and we hear it all the time, especially in the spiritual community here. You know, it's how we kind of live our lives. But I feel like there's a little more to it. And that's why I wanted to bring this talk today, because I feel that there's a little more to what it means to just follow your heart. What does it actually look like? And what kind of things come up around us when we do that? And so again, the book's message is follow your heart, right? And it's don't do something just because other people do. And that's really where it comes down to, because when we talk about following our heart, it's easy just to be like, oh, well, you know, I want to be a healer. I want to help people, you know, like there's a couple little things here and there we want to do. But the real lesson and the real challenge comes from the outside influences and the influences that have been with us our whole life. So sometimes following your heart means going against everyone you love and everyone around you. And sometimes following your heart also means going against everything you learned and you were taught and you've lived up to this point. And that's also why it was so important to put this message out for children, but it's not just for children, it's for all of us. So the thing is that when we talk about following our heart and we talk about doing the things that we love, you know, and that's what we hear the most, but it's not just about doing what you love. Talking about following your heart is also about being what you love and changing who you are, how you do things, how you see things, how you speak, how you act, how you feel. All of that goes into following your heart. It's not just about, oh, I want to change my job. That's following my heart, right? That's what a lot of people think. That's the kind of first thing that comes to mind. So when I talk to you about, let's rethink and let's tune back into what it really means to follow our hearts. Let's tune into what that means, both outwardly and inwardly. What does following your heart mean when it comes to how you treat yourself, when it comes to how you treat others, when it comes to how you see yourself, when it comes to how you act and talk and speak? And so many of us here in the spiritual community have gone through changes and gone through struggles in feeling this calling to have a spiritual life and to have a spiritual path, and having these struggles from the people around us and having to make that change and go from one way of life to, in some ways, a completely different way of living. And it challenges not only ourselves, but it challenges the people around us, you know, and it becomes a big challenge for our family and friends when we want to change. And sometimes it's as much of a struggle for us as it is for them, because people get uncomfortable when there's change. And a lot of that stems from fear. And when we want to change, a lot of that fear comes up in the people around us, especially the people closest to us, whether it's our spouses or our parents, you know, or our siblings. When we want to make that change, it scares them. And so they resist it. So sometimes we have internal resistance that's hard enough for us. But then on top of that, you have this external resistance. And these are the people that are supposed to be supporting you. And sometimes, for lack of a better word, they're your biggest enemy in your change. And it can be disheartening. But that is also part of the path. And that's also part of the lesson in following your heart, is that you need to tune in truly to what's right for you. And again, this is outwardly and inwardly making changes. And And it goes back to the book and the story of the book. Even if it's your own family and friends that are doing something different and that's all they know, that's okay. One of the other things to look at also that was very clear to me in all this and in speaking today is also just the reflection of following your heart. How does that not only affect ourselves, but what does that mean with how we affect other people? And a message that I really wanted to bring today is another thing to really take a deep look at, tune into. If you really want to be free, if you want to follow your own heart, and you want the people around you to support you on your path and your journey of following your heart, that also means you have to allow them their own path, and you have to allow them to follow their heart. And that might be completely different. They might have a completely different view or belief or way of living. But if you want them to honor you, it's important that you also honor them. And that's okay. Everything is okay. There's no right or wrong way. And that right or wrong is also another belief that we're taught. You know, a lot of it really comes down to nature versus nurture. Growing up as little children, you have nature and nurture. Nature is your environment. So the environment that you're in can look a lot of different ways, depending on where you're growing up, what country you're in, what religion you're in, what household you're in, what level you're at as far as poverty and abundance. All that affects you and who you are and your views of the world, how you see things, how you talk about things, how you act, how you look. It all comes into the nature of how you were raised. And then when it comes to nurturing, you know, what did your parents teach you? What did the people around you teach you? How did they teach you about what's right and wrong, what's polite and rude? And for everyone, for every family, for every community, for every nation, for every religion, that is all different. What's right and wrong, what's polite and rude, what's accepted and non-accepted. It's all different. So one of the things that we need to do when we talk about following our heart is we need to take it upon ourselves to create a new environment for ourselves. And that new environment might mean getting new friends, it might mean moving to a new area, it might mean getting a new job. So we need to create a new environment. We also need to create a new way of nurturing ourselves. And that now shifts from being your parents' responsibility or whatever other mentor you had to yourself. You now have to be the person that nurtures yourself. When you take that leap, when you decide to follow your heart, and now it's in your hands and you are the one in control, deciding how you want to nurture yourself and how you want your environment to look. These are all things to take into account. And it is not always easy. And that's part of it all. That's part of the lesson. That's part of the growth. It's not always easy. And other people, it goes both ways. Because sometimes you want to make a big change, and there's some people that'll be a little bit against it and think that it's a bad idea. And there's other people that think it's wonderful and might encourage you too much because they might make it sound too easy. So you have both ends, you know, and it's up to you to find that balance, that middle point. And you really need to tune in and find that place of, I want to follow my heart. So this is what I'm being called to do. This is the direction I want to go in. Now, what does that look like? For some people, it's a giant leap, and they can take that leap, and they might have the support, or they just might have the courage, and they may not be afraid of what happens. They might have that ability. For other people, you might have a family that you're supporting, and leaving your job might be too risky. So you can take baby steps. And the only thing that it comes down to is just being true to yourself and just deciding when you want to make this change in this direction. Because being true to ourselves, being true to what we love, being true to our hearts, if we don't follow that calling, there's always going to be part of us that's sad and resentful and a little bitter for not doing it in the life we had. So my advice is always follow your heart. However, tune into what that means and what that looks like. Because even just taking baby steps is enough sometimes. And that might be all you need to just give you that little extra bit of fulfillment. So this book came through me, and I sat down, and I have a million things that I'm doing. You know, I freelance, so it's hard enough just having to do my own business and job and get to work and do everything involved in that. And that's my design and website design work. Then I run Awaken, my spiritual center nonprofit, and I started that. Well, actually, I'm gonna back up a little bit. So for me, following my heart, my story started when I was in high school, maybe even before that. And I was a good student. I was great in math and science. I did an A+ in calculus. Hasn't done anything for me. So we just calculus talking about. But that mindset, right? So when it came down to what do I want to do with my life, and I did not like numbers and math, but my mom wanted me to be an engineer or a scientist or something along those lines because I was good at it. So it would have been easy for me, and it would have been an excellent career. So here's career on one hand. I get my artistic talent from my dad. So my dad was very supportive of me doing something artistic. So I actually had a complete split in my life from my parents of what direction to take. And luckily, it happened to work out that this was the time that desktop publishing was just being born. And as I was making these decisions, the web was also just being born. So now I actually had a way to be creative and have a career path, but I followed my heart. Even then, you know, as a teenager, I tuned in and I said, okay, well, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? Do I want to look at numbers and problems, you know, or do I want to do something creative? And so I went the creative way and it worked out, and I've had a beautiful career, and it also allowed me to freelance. And that was another big decision leap I had to make. Was when I lost my job, I already had some freelance starting, and I had to make a leap of faith again. Do I want to continue freelancing or look for another job? And I felt like freelancing was the way to go. And I wasn't even sure about it for a couple of years until I found my spiritual path. And because I was freelancing, it allowed me the time and space to nurture myself spiritually. And that actually led to me starting my own nonprofit, Awaken Center for Human Evolution. So it was through all this that my life has gotten to where it is. And then, as I mentioned, one day I was sitting there and this book comes through, and I have so many things to do, right? And I'm like, all right, one more project, maybe I'll get to it someday, you know. I'm like, but I really wanted to do it. I was feeling the call. And so the first thing I did was I got the okay from my wife. So it's a good place to start when you have a calling, right? And knowing me, I probably would have tried to do it anyway, but when you have that support, it's a lot better. And I read her the story, and she's like, this is wonderful, you have to make this a book. So I was like, let's do it. So I put it together. I actually had a friend that was an illustrator. And again, now timing, I want to throw this in real quick because I'm running out of time. When it comes to following your heart, when it comes to doing things, if you want to take on a project or something new, or even make a career change, I've been waiting my whole life. I'm sure there's plenty of you that want to make that change, that want to just completely quit your job and make that leap. That's what Awaken, that's what my nonprofit was for me. Still to this day, I can't tell you how many times my wife has heard, like, maybe I should just quit all my design stuff, maybe sell some stocks so we have a little bit of money to work with, and just go in full circle with my nonprofit. And even her, she's taken a new path, and there's something that she wants to do, and it's finding that balance. It's just finding that balance that's so important. And the timing, because when you're excited about something, it's important that you start taking steps. But again, sometimes it's just baby steps, and that's okay. Because if you rush it, then you might actually cause yourself more problems. So sometimes taking your time and waiting for the universe to tell you what the timing is what's important. With the book, I needed an illustrator, and I reached out to my friend who was an illustrator, and I knew he'd be perfect for it, and he didn't get back to me. So, and this was right around the time COVID was hitting. So I decided, all right, well, I'll put it out to like some other people. I put it out on Facebook looking for an illustrator. I found someone else. And actually, this is when COVID happened, because I met with, it was someone I went to high school with. It was her daughter who was in high school, wanted to be an illustrator, perfect match, you know, gives her a portfolio piece, and she would do it for a very low price. And it was right after we met that COVID hit, and she didn't handle it very well, and she didn't want to do the project. She dropped it. So for a couple months, I didn't do anything with the book. And then I said, all right, well, my first choice, let me reach out to him. And this was maybe as much as a year later. I don't even remember the timetable. But I reached out to him the second time, and his response was, I'd love to do it, number one. And number two, I actually just finished my own kid's book a couple months ago. So if I would have got to him first, you know, I mean, I'm sure it still would have been fine, but it allowed him the time to do his own kid's book and do that process and be in that energy of because it's completely different energy. A lot of his illustrations are more adult, like comic book kind of things, and half-clad women and all that kind of fun stuff, you know. But his style was wonderful. So that's why I was like, can he tune in to what we need for a kid's book? And he had already done that. And then with us working together, the illustrations were absolutely perfect. And if any of you are interested, thegoodpirate.org. If you go to the website, you can get the website there. For anyone here, I'll have some books if you want to buy books today. But for anyone else, thegoodpirate.org is where you can get the book, and you can also see some samples. So you can see some of the illustrations, because if I just hold up the book, the people online aren't really going to see it much. So anyway, so you can see some examples of just the beautiful book that we brought out. And I want to just wrap things up. So the book itself, you know, it was just important that this message be brought to people, to children, and starting at an early age, and to let them know, just because this is what your parents do, just because this is what your friends do or your family, just because this might be what's expected of you, it's okay to want to do something else. It's okay to go and do something else. It's okay to follow your truth. And I know this isn't always the case, but we put it into the book because it's a story. When you change, sometimes that causes other people to change. And now it's not about trying to make other people change. It's about changing for yourself, being that example, being that energy, and saying, it's okay to change. I'm going to change regardless of what everyone else wants or thinks. I'm going to change for me. And when you do that, other people see that and they feel that. And it then allows them to do the same. It makes it okay for them to do the same and for them to change, but it's then up to them, and you need to let go. You can show them the way, you can lead the horse to the water, but it is then up to them to follow their own path, and it's not for you to judge it. So I thank you all for letting me be here today. And once again, I will repeat the moral of the story: follow your heart and do what you love to do. So thank you.